Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So, pranam everyone. Welcome to this class. So today,
Pranam, sir.
pranam. Welcome. We have completed 6 chapters of the Bhagavad-Gita, and today we are starting the 7th chapter. To give us a very brief overview of what we have learned in the first 6 chapters, the first thing that Sri Krishna teaches Arjuna when he begins his discourse in the 2nd chapter is that we are actually spiritual in nature. Each of us living beings, not only human beings, but all living beings are Jivatma, which is spiritual in nature. It is not made of material substance. We are not our material bodies. Each of us is a spiritual being which resides in the body. The body dies at the time of death. It is born again when the Jivatma takes a new body. But the Jivatma does not have any transformation. It does not die. It is never born. It always remains the same. And inherently, it has consciousness. Our consciousness is not because of this body. It's because of our own self, which is spiritual. And inherently, we have knowledge inside us. So because we are spiritual in nature, we are naturally inclined to look for happiness which is genuine happiness. And happiness that is eternal, infinite. There is a natural craving in us, in each of us, to look for happiness which doesn't end. You can ask anybody. You can do an interview study. I'm sure everybody will give the same answer, that if you ask somebody, for example, that would you like to have some misery instead of happiness? Answer will be no, I only want happiness. Well, would you like to have happiness only for some time or happiness forever? Obvious answer again will be, I would like to have a happiness forever. And naturally, more the happiness, the better it is. Nobody will say, okay, I have enough happiness now. Give me something else. Give me some misery also to balance it out. No. Everybody will say that, yes, give me more happiness. I want something that will give me even more happiness. And that is the reason why we all work hard. We believe, looking at other examples, that if we work hard today, we can then save a lot of money. By saving a lot of money after retirement or some future point of time in life, we can find an existence like maybe a house in a place which is very comfortable, which gives us all the amenities, and with which we can be happy forever. Of course, we never think that one day we will have to die, we will have to leave this body and then leave everything behind us. We don't realize that. So the Gita tells us that the reality is that in this world, through matter, through the material body, it is not possible to get genuine happiness, which is eternal and infinite. It is possible to get that happiness only if we connect with our own spiritual nature. That realization that we are the Jivatma and not the body, we are full of knowledge, and by our own nature, we are intrinsically happy. Without this matter, when we disconnect from matter, we become even more happy than otherwise. And then, if we are able to connect with the Supreme Being, Sri Bhagavan, then we can experience even greater happiness, ultimate happiness. Sri Bhagavan is Sachidananda. Okay, this is told in different places in the Gita in some manner, but it is much more elaborately explained in the Vedas and in the other Shastra like Bhagavatam. Sachidananda means he has three very basic properties. Sat is the property of eternal existence. He is the truth. He's always existing. There is never any non-existence for him and for us as well. The Sat property is there in us as Jivatmas as well. Similarly, the Chit property also, the Chit property is the property of being knowledgeable, intrinsic knowledge. Knowledge is present in Sri Bhagavan eternally and also present in us. The third property is Ananda. Ananda is bliss or eternal pleasure, eternal happiness. So, corresponding to this, Sri Bhagavan's Antaranga Shakti or internal potency has three aspects. Sandhini, which refers to the Sat feature, Samvit Shakti, which is the Chit feature, and Ananda, which is the Hladini aspect. The Hladini aspect refers to the or corresponds to the Ananda feature. So this Hladini Shakti is what takes the form of his female consort, that is Radha or Lakshmi or Durga. She comes out in that manner, and Sri Bhagavan takes forms such as Krishna, Vishnu, Shiva, and so on. And he's filled with numerous qualities, knowledge, and very pure love. Now, these aspects of Bhagavan are what define him. They are his complete aspects. But he does not manifest these complete aspects to everybody readily. He manifests himself in very broadly three forms. This is what the Bhagavatam says. Vadanti tat tattvavidah tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. Three names, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, because the three manifestations differ from each other according to how the sadhaka approaches him. Person who is performing sadhana to go towards God approaches God with a certain conception of God. For example, some people believe, in fact, there are big philosophical schools which believe that the ultimate form of God, the Supreme Being, is Brahma. Brahma means that being has no form, no qualities, no transformation, no activity. So it is nirguna, nirakara, no rupa, it doesn't have a form also. So this way, this conception of Brahman is just that ultimate being is consciousness, pure consciousness, full of knowledge and eternally existing. And among those schools of philosophy, there's also a school which says that we are all that same Brahman. And because we are that Brahman, ultimately there is no difference between us and that Brahman. There is oneness in all aspects, there is oneness. And therefore, perfection means to realize that you are that Supreme Being. And when you become perfect and get mukti, means freedom from rebirth, you will not have a material body ever again. You will just realize your own identity as that eternally existing supreme consciousness, and thereafter be always very happy. So in this form, in this approach to Bhagavan, he reveals himself only as that, because they approach him like that. They approach him with that conception that he is only that Brahman without form, without qualities. So he reveals himself in that manner. Now, different from them are the people who think of him as the Paramatma, the form of God who lives in the heart of every living being. There is God present in every being. He's called, I am the Jivatma, he is the Paramatma. So when they approach him in that manner, think of him as somebody who always accompanies the Jivatma and guides him. And ultimately, by performance of bhakti or whatever process, one can achieve that Paramatma, realize that Paramatma, and live with that Paramatma eternally in his service. To such people, Sri Bhagavan manifests himself as that Paramatma in the heart, and they realize him like that. And through that realization, they get mukti. But finally, those who know or those who understand him as a person, just like themselves, it's like each one of us is a person, Bhagavan is also a person, and he has all qualities, he has activities, he has desire. Not our kind of desire, but the desire to do pure seva, that desire. And he has pure love, he has feelings, he has sentiments, everything. He is perfect in every aspect that we can only imagine that we have with us. So when we realize, by reading the Shastra properly, like Bhagavatam, for example, explains him in that manner, and even the Gita explains him in that manner. When we approach him with that conception, with that understanding, then he reveals himself like that. So according to how we approach him, he reveals himself. Now, the way to approach him is called yoga. And yoga is the most dominant topic of Bhagavad-Gita. If you ask me in simple terms, what is Bhagavad-Gita about? I'll say Bhagavad-Gita is about yoga. So yoga means what? Yoga means the process of connecting with Sri Bhagavan. Process by which we connect with him is called yoga. And the word yoga is also used to refer to the state of being connected with him. So the state in which we feel that connection, we realize that connection, and we feel connected, and we are connected. That state is called yoga. So both the process to connect as well as the state of being connected are referred to by the word yoga in the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita talks about how we can perform yoga depending on our level of current, you can say, spiritual orientation or even material orientation, our orientation in general, our background, our shraddha, etc. Yoga is described in different ways. Yoga through karma. Karma means our prescribed duties. When we come into this world, we are born in some family, some community. Accordingly, according to our swabhav, our past karma and the swabhav that we have. Swabhav is the nature that we acquire at birth. And according to that nature, we are subject to the three gunas of Prakriti, Sattva guna, Rajo guna, Tamo guna. I'll be talking about these three gunas in more elaboration as we do the 7th chapter. We take birth, and according to the birth, according to the swabhav that we have, we are prescribed different types of karma. Now, even those who are not doing yoga are expected to do their karma, respective karma, so that they can then live a peaceful life. They can be practicing dharma in this world. And by practicing dharma, one remains peaceful. One remains peaceful, acquires punya, and then gets an even better material existence in a future life. But when one wants to do yoga and connect with Bhagavan, then through karma itself, one can do yoga without giving up one's prescribed karma. That is called karma yoga. And one does one's prescribed duties, but with a small difference. One does it with detachment. Okay, so in the last class, we had this question, how can we develop detachment? Now, the simple answer to that is we develop detachment to anything when we develop attachment to something else. Right? It's very simple to understand that. For example, let's say a small child, let's say a 3-year-old child is interested in certain toys. Okay, so certain toys are given to the child, and the child is very deeply attached to those toys. If somebody comes and even touches a toy, the child may start panicking and go and say, no, give it back to me. The child may think that person is going to take away the toy. The child has very deep attachment. Even when the child goes to bed, it will keep the toy near it and sleep, so that nobody else takes it away. Right? But what happens, let's say 2 or 3 years later, the child gets interested in something else. Let's say it gets interested in playing outside. It finds other children, grown-up children of its age, playing some maybe football or something else outside. Then it's no longer interested in the same toy with which it was so attached just a couple of years back. That toy no longer looks attractive to the child. And even if you give it, the child will say, no, I don't want it. I want to go and play. I want to go outside and play. And then you have to, with great difficulty, bring the child back inside the house. It will cry if you try to bring it back. Mother will say, no, enough of playing today. You have to now have your food and you have to do something else. So the child has now moved from attachment to one type of toy to some other activity. So attachment to a different thing gives detachment from a previous thing. Simple. That's the process of detachment. So same applies in all the forms of yoga, including karma yoga. So in karma yoga, what are we asked to be detached from? We are asked to be detached from the fruits of the activities we perform. What are the fruits of the activities? Now, in the normal dharmic system, doing our prescribed karma gives us punya. That is the fruit. Everybody does their karma sincerely. At the back of their mind is the thinking that by doing this sincerely, without cheating anybody, without kapata, with hard work, by sacrifice, etc., etc., I will get punya. And punya, I will then reap or encash that punya in a future life, or maybe even in this life. Good things will come to me and my family if I do this. Now, this is the fruit of karma in the normal dharmic sense. In today's sense, nobody does the prescribed, at least the Vaidika prescribed duties, right? We are all doing whatever work that we are educated to do. And even in that, you can think the fruits of our activities are things like our salary, our promotions, or our status in society, etc. Right? Now, what is meant by becoming detached from them? Detached from them means that when we are doing yoga, when we are started doing the path of yoga, we are doing with the understanding that we want to connect with Bhagavan. Yoga means connecting with Bhagavan. So we are doing with the intention that now my goal of my life is no longer the punya that I might have got by doing my work sincerely, or to make a lot of money using my work, whatever work I'm doing, or to get a big status in society. That's no longer the goal of my life, because I have understood that I am actually spiritual in nature, and the goal of my life is to connect with Bhagavan. That is the goal of my life. And therefore, this fruit, which will anyway come, because if I do my work, I can't say, don't give me my salary. Salary will anyway come. Status will come. As you do your work, you will become more senior, will promote you, and status will come. But you're no longer attached to it, even though it comes of its own. Your attachment is something higher. And therefore, you learn to offer everything to Bhagavan. You say that now, how can I use this money in the service of what will please Sri Bhagavan? So what will please him, for example, doing some service in society, or offering it to talking about him in some way, spreading his message. In so many different ways, you can use the fruits that you get from karma in his service. And thereby you're doing what is called as Bhagavad-arpanam. So karma yoga involves Bhagavad-arpanam. Regardless of whether you're doing it in the Vedic system or in the modern system, karma yoga is always Bhagavad-arpita karma yoga. It's also called Bhagavad-arpita nishkama karma yoga, because it is free from kama, the desire to enjoy. Similarly, Jnana Yoga, Jnanena Yoga, through Jnana Yoga, the connection with God happens. And this is possible only when you have done Karma Yoga for some time. When your chitta, when your mind, your consciousness has become purified from the desire to enjoy. When you start Karma Yoga or any form of yoga in the beginning, we are like anybody else. We have millions of lifetimes, countless number of lifetimes we have lived in this world, in this material existence, and we have always been conditioned by the desire to enjoy this world. So freedom from that begins when we do yoga. And by doing karma yoga, let's say, for example, if we start with the path of karma yoga, then by doing that sincerely for sufficiently long period of time, purification happens, and then we can do jnana yoga. So what happens in jnana yoga? In jnana yoga, one contemplates on the realizations one has acquired. Jnana means the realization that I am this jivatma, I am not this matter. Right now, we know it theoretically. We are able to appreciate it theoretically. We are able to visualize it in the mind. We can even make a drawing and say, the small dot, I'm the jivatma, all this matter around me. All that is fine, but we don't have a realization, internalization. As we do karma yoga or any form of yoga, this realization that I am not this body, I am this jivatma, I don't belong, I don't want this enjoyment. I'm happy without it. I'm actually part of Bhagavan. I want to connect with him. This realization becomes very natural and very strong. At that point of time, one becomes ready to do jnana yoga, whereby one, if one wants, one can then give up one's prescribed karma and spend one's time contemplating on that jnana of oneself, atma jnana. One contemplates the jnana through the strength of the Shastra. The Shastra says so many places about the nature of the Atma, the nature of the Paramatma, the nature of Bhagavan. Contemplation on that, meditation on that becomes the essence of Jnana Yoga. Along with that, accompanying tapasya to help that contemplation become stronger. Similarly, the next process that Sri Bhagavan described, which we saw in the 6th chapter, is the process of Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyana Yoga. Now, Ashtanga Yoga is described by Patanjali in great detail, but the Ashtanga Yoga of the Bhagavad-Gita, it involves very similar steps. The distinct difference there is that Bhagavan says, contemplate on me, which Patanjali does not say in his teachings. In the Gita, in the 6th chapter, he says, I should be the object of your meditation. After you do all the yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, all that is on me. And samadhi, I should be the object of your contemplation. Now, these three processes, Karma Yoga is the basis, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, follow after you have done Karma Yoga for a sufficiently long time. You can't start with Dhyana Yoga if you are a zero, right? So these processes build like that. Now, independent of this, these three, the system of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, is Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is a process whereby you develop the Shraddha right in the beginning that I am a part of Sri Bhagavan, I'm attracted to him, I want to connect directly with him. And with that Shraddha, you directly connect with Bhagavan through the activities of Bhakti. I'll talk a little bit more about those activities of Bhakti, which are distinct or which can be done along with one's prescribed duties if one wants to, or even if one leaves one's prescribed duties and does seva of Bhagavan through those activities of Bhakti Yoga, then also one is not at fault. That's what the Bhagavatam says. So in Bhakti Yoga, one performs one's normal life activities, but along with them, one also performs activities of Bhakti, which are like Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Mandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. This is from the shloka spoken by Prahlad. I'll speak more about Prahlad in the end of today's class. And by performing bhakti, one's ego is completely offered to Sri Bhagavan. I'm nothing other than a small servant, an insignificant servant of Bhagavan. This ego, the ego gets transformed to that. The ahankara that we have is discarded completely. In the other processes, the ahankara remains and takes the form of I'm a yogi, I'm going to connect with Bhagavan, I don't belong to this world. So there is still that separation from Bhagavan, but in Bhakti Yoga, one endeavors to completely connect with Bhagavan and give oneself Atma Nivedanam. I belong entirely to him. Okay, the ego is displaced or replaced by this conception of oneself. That is Bhakti. So the Gita is about these four systems of yoga, and everywhere we talk about it touches upon this. Now, in the 7th chapter, as we complete the first 6 chapters, the 6 chapters have focused on the first 3 at least, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga. In the 7th chapter, we make a transition to Bhakti Yoga. And the next 6 chapters, 7th to 12th, dominantly talk about Bhakti, the ideas of Bhakti. So how does it begin? Straight away, Sri Bhagavan doesn't say, you now give up everything and surrender to me. Instead, he says, let me read the shloka and then explain what it means. Then you will see how it starts. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Maya Sakta Manaf Partha Yogam Yunjan Madashraya Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Jnasyasi Tatshrinu. So Sri Bhagavan said to Arjuna, Maya Sakta, connected to me, Mai Asakta. Mai means in me, Asaktam means attached or absorbed, Asakti. Manah, Mai Asaktam Manah Yasya Saha. So Bahuvrihi Samas. Okay, Mai Asaktam is Saptami Tatpurushi Samas. Mai Asaktam Manah Yasya Saha is Bahuvrihi Samas. So in this word, it says, one whose mind is fully absorbed in me, O Partha, Yogam, one who performs yoga in that way, Yunjan, Yogam Yunjan, engaged in such yoga, Madashraya, having taken my shelter. What is meant by Madashraya? Having taken my shelter. So taking somebody's shelter means living one's life in accordance with what that person likes, avoiding what that person dislikes, and doing what that person likes or that person appreciates, or what gives pleasure to that person, right? So that is called shelter. And you can think that this would involve, for example, also considering oneself as dependent on that person. That person will protect me, right? Goptritve varanam tatha anukulyasya sankalpaha pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishyati iti vishwaso goptritve varanam tatha atmanikshepa karpanye shadvida sharanagati. 6 limbs of sharanagati or ashrayatva. So one gives up activities which can be displeasing to that person of whose shelter one wants to take. And one deliberately or intentionally does activities which are happy, which make that person happy. Anukulyasya sankalpa. And then rakshishyati vishwasa. So one always has the understanding that if I live like this, then he will protect me. He will never let me down. Right? I belong to him. Goptritve varanam tata. I am his, I belong to him. Then he says, Atma Nikshepa Karpanye, Karpanyam means this feeling of smallness. I'm small in front of that person, that feeling, right? So when somebody, for example, takes shelter of a big king, okay, the king will protect me. Now I have come to his kingdom. In today modern world, we have the concept of refugee. In your own country, there is so much trouble. You're not able to live in the country. We see so many countries like that. And some people come to India also as refugees. So they're not able to stay there in that country. They come to this country, other country, and the other government says, okay, we will give you refuge. You can be safe here. So that is basically Sharanagati. It's the same principle of Sharanagati. And in that country, that government gives them some land to stay. It gives them some occupation to do and earn money. It gives them a house. It gives them children education and so on. So therefore, all these principles of Sharanagati, and they expect, the government obviously will expect that the people who have come will not do anything that will break the laws of that country. And they will also contribute to the growth of that country. Assumption. So he says, Shri Bhagavan is saying, now take my shelter, become mine. Assumption, without any doubt. Samagram, completely. Samagram means completely, comprehensively. Mam, me, yatha gyasyasi, how you can know, how you will know. Gyasyasi is in the bhavishyat kal, future tense. How you will know, tachshunu, hear from me. So he's saying, basically, hear from me, O Partha, by engaging in yoga with your mind absorbed in me and being in my shelter. Hear from me how you can know me completely and without any doubt. Okay, that is how the 7th chapter begins, saying that basically now we have spoken about karma yoga, we've spoken about jnana yoga, jnana, we've spoken about qualities like detachment, about how one's mind becomes completely peaceful when one develops detachment. We spoke about the importance of repetition. So Sri Bhagavan is saying that now I have told you all these things. And at the end of the 6th chapter, I told you, it says that you yoginam api sarvesham matgatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha. Even greater than all the yogis or amongst all the yogis, that person whose mind is fully absorbed in me, matgatena antaratmana, shraddhavan, with shraddha, one who worships me, shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha. He's the best person. He's engaged best in me. And now the 7th chapter will elaborate on that last shloka of the 6th chapter. It begins with this. Then Sri Bhagavan says, Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshyamyasheshataha yajñatva neha bhuyonyate gyatavyam avashishyate. So Sri Bhagavan says, Jnanam, that is basic knowledge, te, unto you, aham, me, savijnanam, along with specialized knowledge or specialized aspects of knowledge, idam vakshyami. I'm going to tell you these things now. Vakshyami means I'm going to tell you in the future tense. It's in the future tense. Vadami is in present tense. Vakshyami, future tense. Asheshataha means without a remainder. Shesha means remainder, right? Asheshata means without remainder, I'm going to tell you basic knowledge about me and also specialized knowledge about me, some special aspects. Yajñatva, after knowing which, neha, na iha. Neha means na iha. Iha means here, in this world. Na here, no in this world. Bhuya, further. Anyat, something else. Gyatavyam avashishyate. Gyatavyam means that which ought to be known will remain. Saying that after you know this, there will remain nothing further for you to know in this world. Okay? So he's saying that I will now comprehensively describe to you basic knowledge about me, jnana, along with finer and specialized aspects about me, vijnana. After knowing this, nothing further will remain to be known in this world. Okay? I mean, you can ask, there are so many things to be known in this world. Now Bhagavad-gita has only 18 chapters, of which 6 are already over, only 12 are left. So how is it possible that you can compress all of that into this much? The point he's making is that there's nothing relevant to be known other than what I'm telling you. Right? For example, you can ask the question, will Sri Bhagavan tell us how many windows are there in the world's largest ship? The point is that most of the other things in this world, other than what he's saying here, is not relevant to be known. What is the purpose? The purpose is to connect with him. So whatever is required to connect with me, whatever you need to know, I'm going to cover all of that in the coming in the coming knowledge I'm giving you. And then he says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatamapi siddhanam kaschin mam vetti tattvataha. Okay, so Manushyanam, amongst human beings, Sahasreshu, among thousands of human beings, Kaschit, one person, Yatiti Siddhaye, endeavours for perfection. Among thousands of human beings, one person endeavours for Siddhi, perfection. Okay, that even the thought that is there something beyond this normal material life? Okay, normal material life, everybody is caught up with their career. Okay, when somebody is in school, the parents are preparing them for competitive exams. How do you crack the exam? How do you top the exam? How do you get a rank in a good college? The moment they get into college, everybody is talking about how do you get a good job. The moment you get a job, everybody is talking about how do you get the next better job. And at some point of time, people will say, how do you rise up in the career, right? And after some time, people will say, start your own company. And then people will talk about retirement. So it's a whole pool of activities which stereotype. Everybody does the same thing, right? And if you don't do that, then you are eccentric. You're considered to be unusual. Either you're a failure in life or you're somebody who thinks very unusually and you are treated differently, and some jokes will also be made about you. But here he's saying that this path of yoga, even excluding all those people, there is only one person among thousands, very rare person, who thinks that there is something beyond all of this. Okay, and then he says, second line, Yatatamapi Siddhanam, and even among those who are endeavoring, who think different from others and who are now endeavoring for that spiritual perfection, Kaschin Mam Vetti Tattvataha. There's one rare person who knows me in truth, who knows who I really am and has knowledge about me. Kaschin Mam Vetti Tattvataha. Mam means me, Vetti means knows, Tattvataha means in truth. Amongst thousands of people, one endeavours for perfection. Among thousands of human beings, one endeavours for spiritual perfection. And among those who endeavour for spiritual perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Okay, so therefore, what we are now going to learn in the Bhagavad-Gita is knowledge which most people will find difficult to appreciate. Okay, up to the 6th chapter, a lot of people appreciate because it's karma yoga, it looks good. It's actually it's a high selling item. If you talk about Bhagavad Gita in public today, if you ask anybody on the street, do you know about Bhagavad Gita? Of course, it's the greatest book in the world. And, the Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna. Krishna was the greatest leader. Krishna was this, Krishna was that. So you'll find so many people saying that. Okay, what does the Bhagavad Gita say? The Bhagavad Gita says karma yoga. What is karma yoga? Karma yoga means work hard. The result will automatically come. That is karma yoga. Right? So this is the standard answers you get when you talk to people. This is the normal understanding of Bhagavad Gita. And this is the obvious thing that is externally understood by people. Okay, now from the 7th chapter onwards, most people don't know all this. Most people won't say it's talking about very fine knowledge about Krishna, about Krishna's qualities, Krishna's properties. Right? This is something that, for whatever reason, even though it's available, you can download. I mean, you'll find so many versions of Bhagavad Gita freely available anywhere, right? Not even copyrighted. It's available, but very few people really know what is said here, which is what we are going to learn now in the coming shlokas. So at this point, I wanted to take a small deviation and recollect or narrate the story of Prahalad, which I just mentioned now. Prahalad was one of those jivatmas, those rare perfected human beings or perfected jivatmas who had understood Sri Bhagavan in truth. Right? Hardly one knows me in truth, and Prahalad was an example of a person like that. And the story of Prahalad is so interesting that he was born to a father who was a vowed enemy of the person that he was worshipping, right? The vowed enemy of Vishnu. So Hiranyakashipu, his Prahlad's father, is the enemy of Vishnu, or in his mind, he thinks Vishnu is his enemy. To Vishnu, of course, there is no enemy. But to Hiranyakashipu, Vishnu is his greatest enemy and the only enemy. And to Prahlad, he is the most worshipable object, his son. So very interesting. How does it happen? It happens because Kashyapa, the Rishi Kashyapa, has two wives, Aditi and Diti. Aditi is between them the pious one, and she has the children who are known as Adityas. Aditehe apatyam pumamsaha Aditya. That's how the word Aditya comes. Adityas are the people, like for example, the sun god is said to be the son of Aditi. He's called Aditya, right? So similarly, Indra, present Indra, the person who is now the Indra, his name is Purandara, is the son of Aditi. He's called Aditya. Aditya is a generic term for anybody who is son of Aditi. Diti's sons, they are called Daityas. Ditehe apatyam pumamsaha Daityaha. So Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. So it happens that Diti once goes to Kashyapa. It's all the arrangement of God, of course. That she, of course, even though she is the wife of a great sage and she knows everything, she's not, it's not easy to be the wife of a great person like Kashyapa. And being that she knows all the Shastra. But still, once she is afflicted by the desire to unite with him. And that desire to unite comes at a wrong time, at a time it should not come. And she's so much under the influence of the desire, she goes to him at the time when the sun is about to set, at the time of dusk. And she says, let's unite. And he says, no, this is not the time for that. There's a separate time meant for that. And she pleads with him. So he knows that there is a divine arrangement in this. And so he obliges to her. And because of, the act being performed at a wrong time, they have, her womb gets two children who are Daityas or demons, Asuras. So Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu are born. It's a long story, but to make it short, after Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha are born, they grow and they start troubling everybody in this world. That's why they are born. Vishnu comes in the form of Varaha, takes the Varaha avatar. And in the Varaha avatar, he fights with Hiranyaksha and he kills Hiranyaksha. After the death of Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu is absolutely enraged. He says that until now I thought that Vishnu was a neutral guy. He was supposed to be in charge of maintenance of this universe and he was helping everybody, helping the Devas and the Asuras, everybody was neutral. He also took a neutral position when the churning of the ocean happened, right? So he was always neutral in my mind, but now I'm seeing increasingly that he's siding with the Devas. Whatever Devas do is okay with him. But whatever we people do, the Asuras and the Daityas do, is not okay with him. So and now he has gone to the extent of killing my own brother. How dare he can do this? Who is this fellow? So I'm going to ensure that he will be pounded to death. And I'm going to chop his head off. And the blood that comes out of his body, I'll offer it to my brother. Brother always loved loud sucking blood. And I'm going to offer his blood to my brother. So he takes this vow and he tells all his followers that now go and destroy. Wherever you see Vishnu being worshipped, go and destroy that place. If you see any Brahmana who is chanting Vishnu's name, kill him, finish him off. And the Daityas, they start doing that. Okay, they break all the Vishnu temples, they burn the Vedas. Today also we see that happening in some places, right? Somebody is a Brahmin, go and finish him off. So the Daityas, they do that. And as this happens, parallelly, something else is happening. His wife's name is Kayadhu. And she gives birth to 4 children. And among them, Prahlad is the gem among the children. Right? And he's very special because right from the time that he's in the womb of his mother, he is conscious of Vishnu. Vishnu is his worshipable Lord, and he never has a moment when he doesn't know Vishnu or doesn't think of Vishnu. He's always in love of Vishnu, and tears are flowing from his eyes all the time. So such a child is born to Hiranyakashipu's wife, comes out of the womb. And there's also a story that when she was carrying at that point of time, Narada Muni, he gives protection to her in his ashram and he instructs her about bhakti. And that knowledge is also heard by the baby in the womb. So whatever it is said also that in connection with this thought that when a mother is carrying, if she spends her time thinking about God and reading the Shastra and so on, that influences the child. Of course, if she does something else also, that also influences the child. If she watches violent movies, if she watches engages in activities which are bad, which are degrading in nature, then that will also influence the child. The child's mind, when the baby is born, it will come with that samskara. But if the mother is engaged in this kind of activity where she's thinking about bhakti, performing bhakti, meditating on God, then the child that is born also will come with such qualities. In the case of Prahalad, that was a perfection. He came out perfectly conscious of Vishnu all the time, even as a baby. He didn't need to be educated. Okay? So now the story goes that Hiranyakashipu's torture of the universe is so much that even the devas are not able to tolerate it. They're so powerful, but they can't tolerate what he's doing. So they go to Vishnu and they pray to Vishnu. That's what they do always when there is trouble. And Vishnu tells them that I know what he's doing. It's my arrangement. And I will come and protect you. Don't worry. At the right time, I will come. And I'm waiting for the time when he will torture his own son. And when he does that, I will take birth and I will settle everything once and for all. So Hiranyakashipu, he wants to become very powerful. He's not happy with the amount of torture he's doing. So he wants to become even more powerful, and he wants to be the established or unquestioned leader, or the ruler of the universe. So he goes to a place and does tapasya. He does very ghor tapasya, very intense tapasya, so much so that he becomes completely oblivious of his own body. His body becomes so still in that tapasya that he becomes so oblivious of it that the ants come and eat up his body. And he remains alive inside the body. There's no body anymore. Only he is there, right? And the ants form an anthill on him. You can say the jivatma. Only the jivatma is there, Hiranyakashipu, and his body is no more. Material body is gone. The ants have eaten it up, and they have formed an anthill also on top of that. But he's inside, and his tapasya still goes on despite that. And his tapasya is so strong that it creates fumes. Powerful fumes come out of that anthill, and they spread all over this universe. They're so powerful that it suffocates the fumes. They suffocate everybody. And then the devas go to Brahma, and Brahma says that, let me find out where he is. Brahma is not able to find out where this guy is. And finally, Brahma sees those fumes coming from some place. And he says, yeah, this must be the place where he's doing this tapasya. Brahma sprinkles some water there, and Hiranyakashipu gets a new body. He gets a beautiful new body. He looks extremely handsome in that body. His body is made of gold, and he looks so young. He looks just like somebody who has, probably finished his school and is going out. So that kind of a youthful body he gets, and becomes so arrogant with that body. He becomes arrogant. He starts plundering. He becomes very powerful. He prays to Brahma. He says, Brahma says, I'll give you whatever you want. Please stop this. Stop doing this destruction. Whatever you ask me, I'll give you. Brahma hopes that he will ask for something sensible. But Hiranyakashipu says, because his idea, you see, like we said, everybody wants genuine happiness. And we think that happiness lies in becoming immortal, right? Normally, we never think we are going to die. By default, we think that we are immortal. We never think of our own death. But some people, they know that they are going to die one day, and therefore they pray for immortality. They try to do things which will make them immortal, like Hiranyakashipu. So Hiranyakashipu prays to Brahma and says, please bless me that I will never be killed by any living being created by you, by a being which is a human being or an animal or a daitya or a rakshasa. He names all the living beings that he knows, and he says, please bless me, I will not be killed by any of these beings. Please bless me that I will not be killed inside the house or outside the house. Please bless me that I will not be killed in the daytime or the nighttime. So he has covered all the bases, right? It's not possible now to die, because daytime, nighttime, both are eliminated. All living beings are eliminated. And also inside the house, outside the house, all space is eliminated. So how can he be killed? So now Hiranyakashipu, so Brahma says tathastu, because Brahma just wants to get away from there. He wants to just say okay to whatever this guy says, because he doesn't know what he will do next. If he says no, it's okay, tathastu. We'll figure out later on if something happens, we'll solve it at that time. But now tathastu, go away. So Hiranyakashipu gets that boon and he becomes extremely arrogant. Extremely arrogant. He comes back and starts doing anything that comes to his mind. Indra and all the other devas run for life. They are out of heaven. And this guy goes and sits there. And everybody, even Narada Muni, he says that now I had to bow down to him. When I came to this universe, I had to bow down to this fellow. He was so arrogant. Nothing could control him. Now, only one thing is there which troubles Hiranyakashipu, and that he is not able to control. And that happens to be his own little son. Okay, and that's where the story becomes interesting. So when Prahlad is 5 years of age, Hiranyakashipu, like any father with a child of 5 years, calls his teachers. The teachers obviously are the gurus, are the guru, the Kula Guru, and the Kula Guru's family. So the sons of Shukracharya, they are called, their names are Shanda and Amarka. That's the name of these sons. He calls them and says, now my child is 5 years of age. I'm putting him in your charge, along with the other children in our community. Please train him. And please train him in all diplomacy, all politics. Please make sure that he becomes a king. He's fit to replace me as my son. Okay, train him in all the materialistic truths, all the Artha Shastra, Niti Shastra, everything. So they start training him. They teach him, they teach him, they teach him. And obediently, Prahlad is the best student in the class. He obediently follows whatever his teachers tell and repeats whatever they say and everything. And so after a few months of training, they bring him to the father. And Hiranyakashipu was so happy to see him. So happy to see him because he knows that now this child is growing up and one day he will replace me. And Prahlad is so beautiful to look at. Such a small child and so sweet. So Hiranyakashipu places him on his lap and he smells his head and he kisses him and he says, child, I'm so happy to see you. Tears are flowing down Hiranyakashipu's eyes. And he says, I'm so blessed to have you as my child. Now, please tell me, what have you learned in school? What have your teachers taught you? So instantly, Prahlad says that, Father, Vishnu is the supreme and everything belongs to Vishnu and our job is to serve Vishnu. There's nothing in his existence other than Vishnu that is worth knowing about, he says. So Hiranyakashipu is shocked to hear that. So he looks at his son and he says, something has spoiled this guy. He's a child, a small child. Somewhere this knowledge has come into his head. He looks at the teachers. The teachers say that we didn't teach him this. There's something, maybe somebody has planted some thoughts, maybe some other children were playing with him. So he tells his teachers that please ensure that he doesn't come under any bad influences. Something bad has influenced him. He's speaking nonsense. So please make sure that he's protected and he's given the right knowledge. The teacher says, yes, we will take care. We don't know how this happened. So they go back and they start. And after again some months of training him, before taking him to the father, they tell him, now Prahlad, we have taught you everything and you have learned everything. So please repeat whatever we taught you. Then Prahlad says the same thing that he told his father. He says, knowledge about Vishnu is the only thing that is worth knowing. And that's what I want to know. That's what I have learned. That's all there is to knowledge. So teachers are now shocked with that. They say that there is something in this child which we also can't decipher why this child is speaking like this. So what they do, they take sticks and they start beating him. A small child about 5 years of age, they start beating him. They say that, no, you cannot speak like this. If you speak like this, your father will kill us. You have to behave. You have to speak properly. They beat him. Whatever they do, they are not able to change his mind. They are not able to change what he speaks. So they report this to his father. They say that we are not able to change. And then Hiranyakashipu orders his demons. He says that this is actually some evil spirit that has taken place, that has taken birth in my wife's womb. This is not a normal child. This is definitely not my son. Some evil spirit has come and Vishnu has done some trick on this. We have to first kill him. Before killing Vishnu, this child has to be killed. We can't allow this child to live anymore. So he orders his demons. He says that, go take this child and finish him off. Don't bring him back. So the demons take him, and the story goes in the Bhagavatam that they try to kill him in different ways. So whatever ways they try to kill him, for example, the very first, the simple thing they do is they poke him with the spears, very, very sharp spears. Nothing happens to him. Then they take him to the top of a cliff and they throw him down. Nothing happens to him. They find that he's alive and he's walking normally. Then they throw heavy stones upon him. Nothing happens to him. They throw him in a pit with very venomous snakes. They go back and see that the snakes have all turned into garlands. They put him in a pit with very powerful elephants, mad elephants, who are known to crush human beings, even Rakshasas. Powerful people can be crushed by the elephant. They go and see the elephant has lifted the child and put it on its back. So they're not able to figure out what is going on. And they can make out that there is some power that is acting. And they are totally helpless. And Hiranyakashipu is threatening them that if you don't kill him, you are finished. You are going to be finished. They are totally helpless. They go back to Hiranyakashipu and say that, oh, our master, we are not able to understand what is in this child. But he's not a normal child. He says that he agrees to whatever we say, but we are not able to do anything to him. So finally, Hiranyakashipu calls him and he says, you are a complete betrayer of my dynasty and you have taken birth to kill me. Tell me, who are you? And tell me, where does your power come from? What for you is knowledge? So that is where he speaks that famous shloka. This is Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnoho Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Shakyam Atmanivedanam Iti Pumsarpita Vishno Bhaktischennava Lakshana Kriyeta Bhagavatyartha Tanmanya Adhitam Uttama. This is the best thing I've learned in my life, that Vishnu should be worshipped in these 9 ways. Shravanam, hearing about him. Kirtanam, glorifying him, praising him, or talking about him. Smaranam, remembering him all the time. Archanam, worshipping him. Vandanam is offering obeisances to him, and so on. He lists Atmanivedanam, offering oneself completely to him as his property. And he says that if one does bhakti like this, then that is perfection. And that is how one should be. So Hiranyakashipu says that he's so furious, his anger is completely out of control. In that anger, he says that now I don't know which one to kill first, you or him. You tell me, where does all this power come from? So Hiranyakashipu, he says that if you're not willing to cooperate, I will first kill that Vishnu, who is the source of your power, whom you claim to be a source of your power, and then I will finish you off. So he says, tell me, where is that guy? You say you are seeing him all the time, but I can't see him anywhere. Where is he? So Prahlad says he's everywhere. Okay, is he here? Is he here? Is he in that pillar? Okay, that's where it comes to the pillar. The pillar is right in front of Hiranyakashipu. Is he in that pillar? He says, yes, he is in that pillar. So he goes and with a huge sword of his, he smashes the pillar with all his might, with all his power. And the Bhagavatam describes that when he smashes that pillar, the sound is so huge that it appears that the universe is cracking. The entire universe is cracking into pieces. Such a huge sound is produced. And then Vishnu appears in that form as Narasimha, where very cleverly he has taken a form which satisfies all the conditions that Hiranyakashipu wanted. He said, I should be killed by neither a human nor an animal. So there's a being now which has got the face of a lion and the body of a human being. It's neither a human being nor an animal. So Narasimha comes out of that pillar and he starts playing with Hiranyakashipu. He doesn't want to kill him right away. So he's full of anger. He wants Hiranyakashipu to see that anger. And he wants everyone to see that anger. It is infinite times more than the anger that Hiranyakashipu was seeing or experiencing. He shows that anger, that Rudra Rupa. Right? And in that form, nobody can stand there. Everybody, even the Devas, they are not able to see that form. They run away from there, except Prahlad. Prahlad, because of his bhakti, he is able to see only Vishnu there. He sees that Vishnu, anyway, he was seeing Vishnu all the time, and now he's seeing Vishnu coming out of this pillar. There's nothing different for him. Right? Except him, everybody runs away from that place. And so he challenges Hiranyakashipu to a fight. Hiranyakashipu, in his anger, goes back and takes the challenge. He fights with him. When the demons see that Hiranyakashipu is fighting with him, they also join Hiranyakashipu. And in that fight, first Narasimha kills all the other demons who are Hiranyakashipu's thing. And he waits for the right time. Okay, now the time condition was it should be neither daytime nor nighttime. So it's the time of dusk, when the day is changing into night. Okay, that dusk period, he chooses that time. He catches hold of Hiranyakashipu with one hand, like a small, it's described that he catches him just like one would catch a small wasp or insect in one's hand and wants to throw it out of the window like that. Catches him with one hand and takes him to a place which is neither inside the house nor outside the house. It is in that area which is like a veranda, which is neither called outside the house nor inside the house. There's a place, typically in an Indian house, there's a place where we keep our shoes, right? Or we sit out for some. So there is a covering, but it's not outside and it's not inside also. So he takes him to that spot and he sits there. And at the correct time, he tears him apart. Pulls out with his nails, he just tears him apart and takes his intestines on top of his body and starts licking his blood. Okay, he destroys Hiranyakashipu in that manner. So this is a story of a Jivatma who was spiritually perfect. The story of Prahalad, more than the story of Hiranyakashipu. It's the story of Prahalad which brought Hiranyakashipu, which brought Narasimha to the palace of Hiranyakashipu and killed him. Okay, so this is what we are going to hear. Bhakti is all about connecting directly with Vishnu. And it's about all those beautiful activities that one comes to hear when one gets into the path of bhakti. As we go through more shlokas in the 7th chapter, in the coming weeks, we will hear more about bhakti. Bhakti does not require knowledge about Vishnu. It is not a precondition. However, in the beginning, Sri Bhagavan gives this knowledge. He talks about himself. He talks about himself because our Shraddha in him builds through that. Most of us don't know anything about him, right? Why would we want to be attracted to him? So to attract us towards him, he gives us this knowledge. He reveals things about him through which that attraction can develop, and we can then develop a Shraddha by which we can then perform bhakti. Although bhakti by itself is independent of this. Bhakti, if it comes to somebody by itself, without even this knowledge, then it can still produce the same result of perfection. Good. So I will stop with this for today. We've taken a very long time in today's class. And if anyone has any questions, we can take them. Om Shanno Mitrasham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Rutam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaramavatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat.